It was just your average teenage party scene in a 90s movie. Just some underage drinking, some Freddie Prinze Jr. in the corner, some tunes jamming in the background. There was nothing special or memorable about this particular scene right here in She's All That. Oh wait, what's this? What are these hypnotizing white boy moves that my eyes are feasting upon? And who is this magician who is expressing himself with such comedic glory? This scene right here, it should have been obnoxious. This should have made us hate this wild beast of a man and never want to see him again. But no. Somehow this curious wiggling and shaking captured the imaginations of a generation. Multiple generations. This actor right here was able to use nothing but the power of physical comedy to both poke fun at what was cool in the 90s, while also embracing and celebrating that strange, beautiful time in history. And from that moment on, everybody wanted to party with Matthew Lillard. He was all that. This talented actor right here perfectly played the wingman to other leading men, mostly Freddie Prinze Jr. But at one time, this actor right here, Mr. Matthew Lillard, was on the path to A-list superstardom. But that never quite happened. But why? Was it typecasting? Was it box office numbers? I don't know, gang. Let's find out. So, jump in the next van full of meddling kids that you see, and let's go solve this mystery of what the f*** happened to Matthew Lillard.
What could I say? We weren't much more than a couple of young punks.
But to truly understand what the f*** happened to Matthew Lillard, we must begin at the beginning, and the beginning began when he was born on his birthday, 1970, in Michigan, the United States of America. His laid-back vibe would help him land his first ever TV gig. Right after high school, he hosted a variety show on Nickelodeon called Skate TV, spelled S-K, the number 8, because that was cool, TV. This was in 1990, so yeah, from the beginning, Mr. Lillard was helping us get those 90s started. On the big screen, Matthew Lillard would kick off his career as Nerdy Dexter in Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College. By 1994, he would land more sizable roles in films like John Waters' classic Serial Mom and Vanishing Son 4.
Ooh, could we watch that scene again? You know, the one where he rips her heart out? Please?
But really, 1995 would be the year that Matthew Lillard truly broke out. After he appeared opposite Drew Barrymore in a movie called Mad Love, he would appear in the now cult classic film Hackers, which is the most 90s thing you'll ever watch. And it is quintessential Lillard. He plays a burnt-out high school kid, despite being 24 at the time. He has a totally awesome, cool, rad haircut. But basically, he's just a guy who wants to hack the planet before it was cool. This character right here feels like it was tailor-made for Matthew Lillard, as he's both a laid-back stoner high school kid who's also high-strung and energetic. And I do not think we would ever get a Shaggy or a Stu Macker without Lillard's standout performance in Hackers. But who is Stu Macker, you ask? Well, that's the name of Matthew Lillard's murderous mess of a crazy cool character from the 1996 genre-redefining film Scream.
Yeah! I'm ready, baby! Hit it! Get up! Yeah, man, get up! Hit it!
So yeah, after a movie called Tarantella Animal Room and the TV movie If These Walls Could Talk, Lillard would land his biggest role yet when he was cast in a new type of slasher film from horror master Wes Craven. The true genius of Lillard's casting here is that he once again plays this joker, smart-aleck high school kid that nobody takes seriously. Spoiler alert for a movie that's over 25 years old. But yeah, in the end, when the Scream Scooby-Doo gang unmasks the killer and it's revealed to be Billy, we instantly feel a sense of calm and relief because we know who the bad guy is and we can just sit back and enjoy the rest of the ride and watch our hero Sidney Prescott ultimately win. But wait, what's this? There are 2 killers in Scream? OMG, WTF? And the other one is Matthew Lillard's stew? But yeah, I really liked the extra Lillard twist at the end. His character was funny, we liked him, so I didn't see the twist coming.
Surprise, Sidney.
You have to remember, this film was the launch pad for the last almost 30 years of slasher films. Director Wes Craven said that they went with 2 killers because generally in a murder mystery, once you know who the killer is, there really isn't any rewatch value. But when there's 2 killers, it would give the audience reason to go back and rewatch to try to figure out which killer was in which scene. Which one of these guys is Matthew Lillard? Is it this one? Is it this one? Is it this one? Is it this one? I don't know, and that makes it more exciting. And like I said, Scream reinvented the horror genre, becoming basically a self-aware satire. It's a postmodern commentary on the tropes and formulas of the genre, and how that reflects real-life violence. And at that time in cinema history, nobody really knew where to take this horror genre. How does one make a horror movie in a world where everybody already understands how horror movies work? The world had gotten used to horror, it had gotten desensitized, so how do you still scare them? Well, you get Wes Craven to round up an amazing cast, among whom Mr. Matthew Lillard stands out, and you just make the genre look itself in the mirror and say, hey, you're a horror movie and we know, and we're just it's a horror movie about horror movies. Whoa, so meta, it's blowing my mind.
Now you gotta die. Those are the rules.
Matthew Lillard said that he was cast purely by accident, as on the day of the audition, he had actually taken his girlfriend at the time into the building for her audition for a different project, and he just happened to be walking past the casting director for Scream, and she asked him to audition, and he did, and obviously he was pretty good. And he even had a bit of a cameo in the 2022 remake, sequel, requel called Scream, even though the other movie's called Scream. Its movie titles are really confusing now. But yeah, in this other movie called Scream that is the sequel to Scream, but his remake of Scream is called Scream, Lillard provides the voice for the Stab 8 flame-throwing Ghostface character.
Shit is lit.
And can we talk about the title?
And towards the end of the film, when the character Amber is walking through the house, an off-camera Lillard can be heard saying, "Cool house, Freeman," which is especially meta when you realize that the scene takes place in Stu's house from the original OMG WTF. It's so meta. This meta a movie that was already meta, and nothing gets better when it's this meta.
Freeman, cool house.
That was me.
From there, we would start to see Matthew Lillard branching out with different projects in supporting roles, including the horror film The Curve, a movie called Senseless, something called Telling You aka Love Sucks, and a movie called Without Limits. But it would be 1998's SLC Punk that would finally bring Matthew Lillard's talents front and center. with a tremendous leading role that almost seemed to be written just for him. This movie, SLC Punk, which stands for Salt Lake City Punk, this film covers everything you love about Matthew Lillard. Going from his disaffected youth in the 80s to being an emotionally wrecked human who is forced to grow up by the end. Learning a lesson, yet still rocking. Which I think is what Lillard wanted to show. It perfectly captured the essence of the wild character that he's so good at doing, much like his character from Hackers, while also showing maturity and growth in his performance. And the critics agreed, saying that the film was a perfect depiction of youthful rebellion and credited Matthew Lillard's tremendous performance as the main reason why SLC Punk works so well.
Don't get me wrong, it's all about this. But for the first time in my life, I'm 18 and I can say, F*** you!
Matthew Lillard has even said that his crying scene in this movie is his proudest moment as an actor. Because crying is hard. You have to, use emotions and stuff, y'all. Matthew said that right before filming, during the lunch break, he worked himself up into a frenzy so that when they shot that scene, he was ready to lose his shite. But sadly, this cautionary love letter to the punk lifestyle did not ignite the box office, pulling in less than $300,000. But of course, it has since gone down to be hailed as a cult classic. And all the punks and the punk posers at my high school, well, they would constantly talk about it. I would walk past the punk table in the cafeteria, and all I could hear them saying was, "Have you seen SLC Punk? Have you seen SLC Punk? Have you seen SLC Punk?" And I was like, no. And I wanted to, but now because of you, I don't want to watch it. But eventually, years later, I did, and I liked it. Because I'm so punk rock.
See, I used to think we were alike. I mean, we were similar. We had something together, like this. You know what I mean? We thought alike, we felt the same way. But you... F*** you.
The thing with Matthew Lillard is that he never felt like an actor who thought he was above anything. He always seemed humble and never too good for any genre. Mr. Matty Lil had no problem taking on supporting roles in all different types of movies. Whether it was that teen romance comedy movie written by M. Night Shyamalan, She's All That, opposite Freddie Prinze Jr., where he would play to perfection what we would expect, a hard-partying, promiscuous reality TV star.
Relax, man. It smells like roses.
I will not relax.
Then he would go on to play a con artist in a movie called Spanish Judges, and take on the role as a soldier from the year 2654 in the video game adaptation of Wing Commander, re-teaming with Freddie Prinze Jr. It's like She's All That in space. Wing Commander was meant to be a big sci-fi hit. It was supposed to ignite a whole new franchise, but it crashed and burned, with just $11.6 million at the box office. He would take a unexpected Shakespearean turn with Love's Labour's Lost, directed by Kenneth Branagh, followed by the surfer comedy Dish Dogs. So he was doing alright for an up-and-coming actor, and his off-screen life seemed to be going just as well, or even better, because he married his wife, Heather Helm, whom he met at a party in 1998, and the duo, who have gone on to have a few kids and have stayed married for over 20 years, which is unheard of in the land of Hollywood land. Good for y'all. To start off the new millennium, Matthew Lillard would appear again with Freddie Prinze Jr. in the romantic comedy baseball movie Summer Catch. And he starred in the film Finder's Fee, opposite Ryan Reynolds, which would actually garner some strong reviews and even win Best Picture at the Seattle International Film Festival, all while getting mercilessly slaughtered in the horror remake 13 Ghosts in the year 2001. where he gives a great terrified performance. This guy, he's really good at acting scared. In this movie, 13 Ghosts, Matthew Lillard, he's all like, "Look, there's 13 ghosts!" But only a true, talented artist can take an iconic character that has been beloved for generations and make it entirely their own, while still staying true to the spirit of that character. And that is exactly what Matthew Lillard did when he signed on to star as Shaggy in the live-action movie Scooby-Doo from the year 2000 and Scooby-Doo. The role was really well suited to Matthew Lillard and the types of characters he has been most successful with over the years. You know, Shaggy, he's a guy who's very laid back with a chill vibe. Basically a family-friendly stoner character.
Scooby-Doo.
Lillard and the rest of the cast had signed on to the film when the script was far more adult-oriented. It was meant to be a parody of the cheesy cartoons, with Shaggy actually being written by writer James Gunn as a full-blown stoner who smoked illegal marijuana. OMG WTF! James Gunn would later admit that the original cut of the film received an R rating, but the studio balked at that and decided to make it PG for the whole family, which is fine. And remember, this was years before that Velma thing. Lillard says that in order to get his voice to where it needed to be to bring Shaggy to life, he would scream so loud that his voice became hoarse. But all that screaming for this star of Scream eventually took its toll, and he simply had to just learn how to do the voice without destroying his vocal cords. For their part, critics hated this Scooby-Doo movie. But most of those pesky critics actually singled out Matthew Lillard's performance as the sole highlight of this Scooby-Doo movie. But those poor reviews, they would not matter at all because this thing was a massive hit, pulling in over 275 million buckaroos. You can buy a lot of Scooby snacks with that. And Matthew Lillard would win big at the Kids' Choice Awards for favorite fart in a movie. Yes, somewhere in Matthew Lillard's house rests a trophy that says favorite fart in a movie. So let us just take a moment to sit back and truly appreciate this award-winning passing of cinematic gas. Next, Matthew Lillard would appear as yet another lovable loser in the movie The Perfect Score, which is a fun, underrated teen comedy with a great cast of future superstars, future Avengers, who are cheating on those stupid SATs. Then Matthew Lillard would next be seen as himself in Looney Tunes Back in Action. He appears in a fun little scene where the animated Shaggy and Scooby take issue with his performance in the live-action film. They go on to tell him that he better step up his game in the sequel, which he would do in 2004 when Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed was unleashed onto the public whether they wanted it or not. And yet again, critics hated this movie but singled out Matthew Lillard's performance as the highlight. And say what you want about the quality of the filmmaking and the story, but the casting department frickin' nails it with these Scooby-Doo movies. It literally looks like the classic cartoon come to life, with people who have flesh. This sequel would take in nearly $100 million less than its predecessor, and would win the Razzie Award for Worst Sequel. But it was clear, this role of Shaggy was another role that Matthew Lillard was meant to play. And despite no third Scooby-Doo movie, yet, but it was obvious that Matthew Lillard still had a lot more Shaggy to offer the world. Lillard would continue dominating in scene-stealing supporting roles in some very interesting movies that didn't quite garner the best reviews or box office, such as Wicker Park, Bickford Schmeckler's Cool Ideas, What Love Is, In the Name of the King, which Matthew Lillard recently said was the worst movie he ever made. But he dug his performance. Once again, Matthew Lillard is the best part of a piece of crap movie. He also showed up as himself in a scene in that movie called Extreme Movie. He had a really fun supporting role in a movie called All's Fair in Love, starring cancelled comedian Owen Benjamin.
Oh!
How'd that feel, bad boy?
Not bad. You really got into that one.
He was also in something called Messages Deleted, something called Home Run Showdown, which he said that he absolutely hated when he saw it, and a movie called Bloodsucking Bastards, because, vampires, I guess. But Matthew Lillard would also pop up in films like Without a Paddle in 2004, that although is not really considered a comedy classic yet, the cast has great chemistry, and they really have fun with the D.B. Cooper legend. I don't know, I liked it. It was a solid, funny flick for its time, and it actually did fairly decent at the box office with $73 million, which is a lot more money than D.B. Cooper ever made. But it was embracing his indie roots that helped Matthew Lillard discern himself from his peers. Whether it was playing against type as the well-adjusted married man in the Edward Burns film The Groomsman, or producing the 2007 film One of Our Own, which was a great change of pace for Matthew Lillard, followed by producing and starring in Spooner, that would go on to win several awards at the Newport Beach Film Festival. No matter where you saw Matthew Lillard, he always gave it his all. And that would even extend to the director's chair for his directorial debut in the 2012 film Fat Kid Rules the World. Despite garnering strong reviews from critics who praised Matthew Lillard's directing, saying that it was clear he had an affection for the material, and through his direction, the film was able to have authentic characters and genuine laughs. Fat Kid Rules the World even took home several awards, including the Narrative Spotlight Award from South by Southwest. Unfortunately, this would be the only film to date that Matthew Lillard has directed, which is a shame because based off of this one movie he made, he's a really talented filmmaker. But it was always nice to see Matthew Lillard pop up in front of the camera, especially in places where you didn't expect to see him, like the Academy Award-winning film The Descendants. You're just sitting there watching, an Oscar-winning George Clooney dramedy about a man who learns that his wife, who is in a coma, is having an affair, and then suddenly we meet the man she has been having an affair with, and who is it? It's Matthew Lillard, and you're just like, oh my gosh, Matthew Lillard's in this movie, this is awesome! I bet he's gonna do some wacky, crazy things. Oh no, he's a serious actor here. Oh, he's good. Wow. This punk rocker has grown up. He's a great performance. I was really excited to see him in this movie. For lots of us, it was the first time we had seen Matthew Lillard on screen in a while. And like I said, this is a more grown-up, mature Matthew Lillard. But you can still see his boyish charm come through every now and then. And because of this, Matthew Lillard and the rest of the cast were nominated at the Screen Actors Guild Awards for Best Ensemble Cast. Mr. Matthew would continue that more mature streak when he would work with master filmmaker Clint Eastwood in another baseball movie called Trouble with the Curve.
I just hope we're not missing anything, that's all. I mean, he is getting up there.
But, more importantly, after nailing his role as Shaggy in those two Scooby-Doo movies, Lillard would actually take over before the original Shaggy voice actor Casey Kasem when he retired in 2009. Which in my mind kind of officially makes Matthew Lillard the official Shaggy, officially, live action and cartoon now. The character is his. You cannot be more of a Shaggy than being him with your body and in cartoon world. But yeah, for over a decade, Matthew Lillard has voiced Shaggy in nearly every Scooby-Doo related project. From movies to television shows to video games. Seriously, everything except for HBO's Velma. Velma! He says that playing Shaggy cost him a lot of credibility in the industry after his success in SLC Punk. But this role of Shaggy has also been the biggest blessing, because without this Shaggy paddle, he doesn't think he would still be in the industry. Matthew Lillard adds that playing Shaggy over the years has kept him relevant.
Have you seen Scooby-Doo? Oh, man! If you see a ghost, what do? You run! Oh,
yay! And of course, he would appear in the gender-swapped remake, He's All That. This time, it's a boy. And of course, there is a subtle, not so subtle nod to his performance in the original, when Mr. Matthew gets his groove on at the prom. It may seem that Matthew Lillard was one of those actors who was all over the place in the late 90s and the early 2000s, and then kinda just disappeared, only to resurface years later in strong supporting roles. But the truth is, he's never gone away. He's always been here, always making his art, always doing his stuff, always making us laugh and dancing and being serious too. And you know what? He's also never been arrested. He's never been a tabloid cover boy. He's actually a well-behaved family man, unlike his characters. He has managed to not be entirely corrupted by the wild and crazy, soul-sucking, destroying world that is Hollyweird. No matter what movie they throw Matthew Lillard in, he always gives a stellar performance. Always giving it his all. And that has paid off. His resume is filled with characters for both children and adults. All ages can appreciate this man's acting. But more importantly, he is now the voice of one of the most iconic characters in animation history. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, he is not done yet. He's still gonna make us laugh, still making us scream, and you know what? I know he's still got those dance moves somewhere in him. So nobody should give a fuck about what the fuck happened to Matthew Lillard, because he's doing just fine. Mystery solved.